As soon as we arrived in the Elkhart, we noticed this eastbound manifest coming out of the yard. It was 12N, daily Elkhart, Indiana to Conway, Pennsylvania. I believe this guy works Rockport Yard in Cleveland, Ohio. We're in Elkhart for the day to watch some trains and catch some weird stuff. Elkhart is known for that. The gravel area in front of us that looks like tracks is where the original double main line used to be. In this photo in the top left corner by a guy named CJ, you can see where the 2 yard tracks in the background came in and where the main line ran right in front of the depot. But those 2 tracks were pushed towards the Railroad Museum to form a triple track. I guess to probably make it a little easier on trains coming in and out of the yard and those that go around the yard. Elkhart is also home to the second largest yard on the NS system. In this photo by Indiana Aerials, you can see the giant 3-mile-long yard. Elkhart handles traffic from to and from Chicago, to and from Conway, Pennsylvania, and to and from Bellevue, Ohio. From Chicago on the west end, you'll often see trains with nothing but foreign power. 07:37 in the a.m., an Amtrak 29, after making his station stop at Elkhart, is on his way west towards Chicago. He'll make a couple more station stops along the way. He's only 6 cars today, as usually the capital limited is, so he shouldn't have too much issues. After that, me and my dad tried to go get breakfast, but we heard an eastbound manifest coming out of the yard, and we had to rush back to the crossing really quick. So I had to shoot this guy from the car. I didn't have time to get set up, but it was decent enough. Well, what a crazy start to the morning. We just got up here at the Amtrak station and just barely caught Amtrak 29 leaving, and then barely caught a manifest led by an eastbound manifest with BNSF-9. Heard a horn that something else is coming in, and then we also got another eastbound down there. So this is going to be fun. And of course, about 5 minutes after I said that, a westbound intermodal comes flying in. I wasn't able to get a symbol on this guy. Most of the trains up here were keeping radio silent, so no ID on this one. Elkhart around this time is usually known for being really busy in the mornings and in the late afternoons. This morning was no exception. We were about to move to the west end of Elkhart when yet another eastbound, high-priority intermodal came out. It had only been 25 seconds exactly since the tail end of the westbound intermodal passed. So we tried to go to the west end of Elkhart, but then again, another high priority eastbound intermodal came in, this time led by a C6M. This is the thing about Elkhart. You should be expecting trains at least every hour. Even if you make plans to move to another place, you might miss a train. So we stood firm here at the station. And no sooner did we decide to go to the west end of the yard again, another eastbound came out, this time a manifest. He was a really short one though, so it didn't take him too long. I think this might have been 19K down to Decatur, Illinois, but then again I could be wrong. The traffic finally calmed down enough and we were able to finally head over to the west end of Elkhart Yard. Here on the west end of the yard was a bunch of power, some of them remote controlled. Over here we see and observe a slug set hooked up to a remote control high hood. The high hood is a very rare locomotive nowadays. We even found this other high hood sitting in between two -9s. Very cool. Dad said he wanted to check out milepost 429 in Osceola. That's him down there in the lower left, because we had heard of a CN 100 unit going west out of the yard, but they'd either already left or it wasn't happening. Fortunately, though, the unpredictability of being west of Elkhart provided us today with a good example. You can never know what you're going to get up here. Here in came CN A440, Chicago to Elkhart, running on NS trackage, with a special surprise leading the way. A440 is Gary, Indiana to Elkhart, Indiana, which uses trackage rights from Gary to get to NS's Elkhart Yard. Manifest, you can tell, which comes out of Chicago. I decided to stop recording for a few seconds, and in doing so, I almost missed this. An ex-City Rail unit was acting as the mid-train DPU. This day was already starting to get really good. We decided to try to head back to the Elkhart depot, but heard one more westbound manifest coming out of Elkhart bound for Chicago, with a BNSF and CN Givo duo, making their way with a very short train. We moved back to the Elkhart station to wait for the Amtrak 49 Lakeshore Limited to come in. But before that would happen, NS 28M came in. 28M is eastbound intermodal out of Chicago, Illinois to Baltimore, Maryland, and he was really short today. Before Amtrak 49 came in, yet another manifest came in, this time heading westbound into the yard. This train had come off the Marion district over in Goshen, maybe about 7 or 8 miles to the east, and was coming into the yard to put his cars away. While the manifest passed by entering the yard, a bunch of people were standing at the Elkhart station telling us that Amtrak 49 was closing in, but it would be still a little longer before he showed up. On the other side of the Elkhart station sits the New York Central Railroad Museum, with a bunch of New York Central equipment, especially these passenger cars, and a New York Central A unit. We would take a look at that later. 0932, and finally, Amtrak 49, the westbound Lakeshore Limited, rounds the corner into the station. He'll stop here for about 5 minutes to take people on and off, and then would eventually be on his way to Chicago Union Station. We decided to eventually go get lunch and ran up towards East Jackson Boulevard. Here we found 2 Elkhart and Western locomotives, one of them reading Pioneer lines on the side. They were hooked up to a red Norfolk Southern caboose, which I thought was pretty cool find. Well, after a very eventful morning, we are back again under the canopy of the Elkhart Depot. There's the end of a train sitting over there. Came west by the cam a little bit ago. I'm hearing the horn of another westbound, so I guess we'll get that and see what it is. Hopefully the afternoon was just as insane as the morning was. As the rain started pouring down, in came westbound Manifest 18K. Daily manifest from Decatur, Illinois to Elkhart, Indiana. With the rain pouring down, it made us end up going under the station canopy to film this guy coming in. Now, I'm not personally all real big into rail cars, But seeing these giant auto parts boxcars with Missouri Pacific road markings on them was really cool, especially seeing 3 of them hooked up together. We actually got to go inside of all this stuff at the Railroad Museum. It was really cool. There's a picture of the station and back in time. Some old artifacts from the NYC days. A picture of when the NYC, PRR, and PC passed the depot. A Lakeshore, Michigan and Southern steam engine bell. A mural painting of the NYC at night passing searchlights. These dwarf signals that were lit up when we went inside. Cool. A list of who New York Central had ties with. A steam locomotive made out of popsicle sticks. Locomotive HO scale and O scale on display. There was an actual full-scale layout inside here, but I think I forgot to get footage of that. Oh well, I still got some pictures though. Seeing all these locomotives on display was really cool too. We even got to go inside the F unit that they had outside and get an up-close and personal look of the New York Central 3001 Steamy and an outside shot of the NYC F unit. Shortly after the rain had stopped, a CPKC Track Its Rights Autorack train came in, with a CP Candy Apple Red SD70 ACU leading. This train would turn north at Butler, Indiana, and make a beeline towards Detroit. Not too long after the rack train got ahead, the dispatcher turned loose 302 to head east. 302 is daily manifest out of here in Elkhart, bound for Mormon Yard in Bellevue, Ohio. We were all geared up and ready to head towards home and make a stop in Fort Wayne when another train diverted our attention. It was the Grand Elk Railroad. They were returning an empty stone train that had NS power from Kalamazoo, Michigan back here to Elkhart. This train would become 63F in about another day or two, depending on when an NS crew got a hold of it. NS sometimes sends stone and grain trains up the Grand Elk Railroad, since there are destinations that they have to go to. So the Grand Elk crew is able to come into Elkhart Yard and take the trains out and run them up towards Kalamazoo and wherever else they're needed to on their line, and they're allowed to bring them back on NS tracks back into Elkhart Yard. This is what they were doing today. It's a rare occurrence, but it was a delightful sight to see nonetheless to just about end our day of rail fanning. On our way to Fort Wayne, we found two manifests sitting just west of Elkhart. The train on our left has a classic power lash-up with an old C44-9W number 9728 in the lead and WFRX 8915 second. This was a BNSF Heritage 2 Mac at one point. Now, unfortunately, we weren't able to stop and shoot video, but we were able to take pictures. Here's a turntable still at East Wayne Yard. The geometry train number 34 was still there, hooked up to a -9. Also there was this remote control high hood number 5191. These are really rare, and to see one again was really cool. An SD70M-2, which was third on a road freight working East Wayne Yard. Even more of a cool find was this N&W red caboose, hooked up to a grain car on the west end of East Wayne Yard. On the other side of that covered hopper was a red NS caboose. Really cool. Posing for some pictures near the west end of the yard was the BNSF 614 and another high hood back there in the background. We ended up getting another photo of the NS high hood 5191. I'm glad these things are still around. We even saw this Kansas City Southern Gray Ghost number 4570 entering second on a manifest into the yard. And last but not least, we actually stopped in Van Wert to get a picture of these PRR color position lights still on the CF&E. Cool. Thank you guys for stopping by and joining us and watching what we did in Elkhart, what we saw, what we were able to feel and see and do and explore. Catching some of this foreign power stuff was really cool. It just tells you the high volumes of traffic, even though it doesn't seem like we caught that much. All the foreign power and old locomotives were really cool to see as well. I'm already planning another trip back up here sometime next year. There has to be much more exploring to do. We just didn't really simply get to do enough. We had some time constraints Saturday, and we had to be back home by a certain time. But it was fun to say the least. Next time I'll plan on doing at least maybe 2 days up here in Elkhart. So, in Elkhart, Indiana, this is CSC Productions, and thanks for stopping by.